It's a stunning time. And the more we learn about all this, the more those of you who have a good education can take advantage of it. It's a more interesting time. Think about the difference in what this student body looks like and what it looked like when Mr. Lincoln got his honorary degree. Or what it looked like when Presidents McKinley and Taft were around here. Or what it looked like just 30 years ago. You have students from virtually every American state, over 40 foreign nations, people from every different racial and ethnic group and different religious backgrounds. Sort of a microcosm of the globally interdependent world into which you will soon enter. It's a much more interesting class and a more interesting world than it was 30 years ago because we're bumping up against one another. But it has some significant challenges that you must meet if you'd like your grandchildren to be here 50 years from now. Climate change and the depletion of resources from trees and water and topsoil and plant and animal species and even oil itself make this an unsustainable time. We have to develop a way to grow that will permit others to follow us. Terror and weapons of mass destruction and the prospect of global disease epidemics like avian influenza make it an unstable time. We have to find a way to work together to minimize the forces of destruction and maximize those of unity. Poverty, disease, the fact that 130 million kids never go to school and 1/4 of all deaths this year will come from AIDS, TB, malaria, infections related to dirty water, 80% of the people in the last category under 5, make this a dramatically unequal time. Even in America, in the 6th year of recovery, which has been very good to people like me, median wages are stagnant. There's been an increase in the percentage of people working full-time, falling below the poverty line, and losing their health insurance. It's an unequal time, here and around the world. Complicating our ability to do what we need to do to deal with unsustainable, unstable, and unequal factors is the prevalence of a politics that is far more primitive at home and around the world than problems it must confront, and one which tends to lag behind the consciousness of people who are thinking about what's going on. We tend to be divided by, all around the world, religious, political, even psychological divisions. And while they might be described in many ways in a sentence, the world is divided politically, religiously, and psychologically between those who need an enemy and those who are trying to make a friend. Between those who believe our differences matter more than our common humanity, and those who believe our differences make life interesting and aid the search for truth. But our common humanity must always matter more. Therefore, your first decision must be into which camp you will plant your banner. Do you need an enemy? Or, like Lincoln, will you accept one only if there's no other alternative? Do you relish your differences, but do you recognize that your common humanity is more important? Is your very identity caught up in the idea that you have to look at some other people with negative reference for religious, political, or other reasons? Or do you feel more fulfilled when you look with pride on someone else's accomplishments and identify with their longings, their dreams, their successes, and their disappointments? All the education in the world all the knowledge in the world will not empower you to solve the problems of the current day or guarantee that your grandchildren can be in a place like this 50 years from now if you don't answer that first question in the right way. Citizens today have more power to do public good than ever before without regard to their politics. I appreciate the mention of former President Bush. He and I have become very, very close friends. We've worked around the world with the tsunami. We've worked in the Gulf Coast area in the aftermath of Katrina. Every summer I schedule a day to go spend with him. Let him drive me around that crazy speedboat of his. Acting like he's younger than I am. He's 82 years old, still jumping out of airplanes. I fall off a 10-inch step and break my car from that. I love the guy. Do we have differences of opinion? Absolutely. Do we argue and fight over this or that issue? Of course we do. But I believe at bottom he is a good human being. I revere the 50 years of service he's given to our country. I do not feel the need to look down on him to feel better about my party, my politics, or my life. We have to all be aware of this. To me, the most interesting discovery in the whole rollout of the sequencing of the human genome, which was completed when John and I were in our last year of service in Washington in 2000. I put lots of your money into that human genome research. I wanted to get to the end of the road before I left office so that we could begin to study all the possible mysteries and find all the solutions to all the physical problems that I believe genomic research will prevent. But the most important thing that I learned as a layperson from the sequencing of the human genome, with 3 billion of them in our bodies, is that every human being on Earth, genetically, is 99.9% the same. Go figure. Just look around this crowd. Every difference you see between yourself and someone else, the color of your skin, the color of your hair, the color of your eyes, the shape of your body, every single thing is rooted in 0.1% of your genetic makeup. And yet, think about how all of us basically spend 90% of our time thinking about that 0.1%. Right? We do. I mean, even if we don't have to be a fanatic to be like that. To go, I wish I were as thin as he is. I'd like to be as young as he is, but at least I'm not as old as he is. I can't hit a golf ball 300 yards anymore, but at least I can do better than that old. You think about it, all of our thinking is like this, right? And it's all rooted in 0.1%. It's okay. Because that's also the source of our creative juices and differences. But we need the emotional and psychological freedom that being aware of our common humanity gives us. That's what leads us into service. That's what leads us to make the most of our ability as private citizens to do public good. Most of the people that I work for today didn't vote for me. They live around the world. And most of the kids I'm trying to help, and we'll have 100,000 more kids on AIDS medicine who will now live normal lives this year than last year, they won't know who I am. And by the time they go to school and start reading newspaper articles in Africa and India and China, Latin America, they'll probably never know who I am. But it doesn't matter if we're 99.9% the same, because that's just about 0.1%.